So here in our final installment of the Nozzle Head Summer Series on fungicides, we're going to talk about how it's too late to be putting on fungicides. It's typically the last question I get of the year when it comes to this topic.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why we might not get our fungicides on in a timely manner. Logistics may have a pretty big part to play in that, or maybe it could be weather, or it could be a combination of both. But I think it is worth a conversation to have that even if you didn't get your fungicides on at that optimum timing, whether it be in corn and soybeans, we still need to understand how late you can go and still see a benefit or a reasonable benefit out of using some of those products.
Yeah, so let's talk about corn first. That's typically the one that the window's going to run out of fastest. We topically talked about our window being VT as our sweet spot, and the further away you get into that, the faster that tips off, right? All the way through that R3 timing or that milk stage in corn, we still see a very nice response. And some of it depends on, you can go into that R4 dough stage in corn if we've got a lot of disease prevalent. So in years where we've had a lot of southern rust, sometimes it even pays to get into that early R4 timing because of the aggressiveness of that disease. But on a normal year, Mike, anytime if I'm pulling an ear, if I start poking kernels with my pocket knife or my thumb and I'm not getting any liquid out of those kernels, it's starting to get into the dough, we're probably on the end of the fungicide application window.
Yeah, and I think alternatively on soybeans, when we start to look at that R3 being the optimum timing, and in previous videos we've explained why that is. But if you do miss that optimum timing, we see it kind of be a little bit of a bell curve starting at that R2 where you start to see an increase in the response. R3 is the peak, and then you start to get to R4 where you still see a really good response, but it starts to taper off as we move into that R5 growth stage. Not to say that we wouldn't see a benefit from that R5 growth stage, especially if you've got some late season disease coming in, or maybe you've got some late season environmental stresses starting to show up that could still impact that soybean plant. But after that point, we're probably going to start to see any response start to drop off a lot more significantly because the soybean plant is well into its way of forming those pods. It's actually already through most of its pod formation. It's actually starting to form the beans in the pods. And so those beans are large at that point. We're going to struggle to get the coverage that we're really wanting, and we've probably already missed the window of preventing any diseases or stresses when we're trying to play catch up. But you know, when we talk about that R5 application, still potential for some benefits, but if you're talking about sequential applications, you still need that foundation of an R3 before having the full benefit of that R5 application.
Right. And one other thing to note, I think that can be pertinent on certain years is years when we get delayed planting, we get some late planted soybeans or even some replant corn. You know, we have discussed it in maybe some of these other podcasts about uneven corn or even replant corn. You're going to go off of the majority of the field of the best stuff in the field. I also feel that this topic here, how late's too late, you may still be protecting some really good corn if you've got fields that have been laggards, you had large significant portions of replant in them, and those are just now getting to the right stage. You can still protect some pretty important pieces of the field if you've still got a significant chunk that's in that same window, right? The window doesn't necessarily open, but remember, you know, you can still protect a pretty good chunk of corn if it's in that tassel through R3 phase, or if you're in soybeans and those maybe laggards or those later planted beans are in the right windows, you can still get a lot of nice responses from a fungicide even on these replant situations that we see in some years.
Yeah, so recognizing that there are a lot of different situations and they can vary from one situation to another, we advise you to reach out to a retail or BASF rep to have a further discussion about when might be the latest that you see a benefit, or if it's still going to benefit you to use a fungicide in your crop.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed the series, and we look forward to bringing you another one real soon.